Here we are, buddy.
You're back, pal.
Guys, I want to thank you
no
for...
tanner.
Well, I hear that a lot. Maybe my tan went away. I was in lots of different countries in Europe.
So Brendan Schaub's past few years can only be described as rough, from his comedy career becoming a total failure, to the endless drama surrounding his name, to being involved in lawsuit after lawsuit, the list goes on. But there's always been one person who stood by his side and had his back no matter how serious the situation Brendan was involved in. And that person used to be Bryan Callen. However, it seems that in the past few weeks, the more time they spend together, the more they actually start to resent each other. Now, I believe this was only amplified by Bryan not wanting to do the podcast as much and no longer being as interested in being part of it as he used to be. Obviously, this upset Brendan and he started complaining about Bryan not wanting to participate in the podcast.
Yo,
Yeah,
Bryan
buddy.
Callen's playing grab ass on his cruise still, so I'm holding down the fort. And I sent out another bat signal, another Austin local. Last week it was the great Tim Kennedy. This week it's the great Mike Catherwood.
Thank you.
Brother, thank
He's
you
great.
for coming in.
Now, to give you a rundown of how ridiculous Brendan has been here, basically Bryan decided to take some time off and go on a cruise with his family to spend quality time with them, which is something all of us should be doing once in a while, especially if you have the resources. Now, because Bryan decided to take this time off and be with his family, Brendan is upset because Bryan can't be part of the podcast anymore while he's away. This means Brendan has to work a little harder and find guests if he wants to keep the podcast going. And if it doesn't, obviously he's gonna lose some money, which is clearly not an option considering the recent lawsuit Brendan is involved in. Now, I don't know if you noticed from that little summary I just gave you, but all of it revolves around Brendan, which I'm not gonna lie, is really selfish, especially considering that Bryan took time off for a completely reasonable reason, which is to spend time with his family. And now that the cruise is over and Bryan is back, you can see the bitchy attitude Brendan has toward him. The podcast starts with Bryan sharing some details about his time on the cruise, and while Brendan tries to act interested, you can see right through his act and how much he truly doesn't care. I think the only reason Brendan keeps asking questions is because obviously this is a podcast and they have to talk about something and hit the 1 hour mark.
A lot of tourism and a lot of...
You went to the touristy, so you were on a cruise?
I was on a cruise, Brennan. I was on a cruise with the family called the Explorer 2. Now, cruises are not my thing unless it's the Explorer because there are 5 restaurants on that boat that are better than any restaurant I've ever eaten in. So you're going to pay for it, but you're going to eat better than anybody.
And is it one of those all-inclusive? Like you
Yes,
just
it
go
is.
whenever you want?
Even the
Ooh.
coffee is the best I've ever had.
Oh, interesting.
And I'll
Settle
say
down
it again.
Settle down a tad.
And I'll
but
say
yeah.
it again.
Hey,
The coffee is even better than anything I've ever had.
it's good.
I know. And the pasta is the best I've ever had. And the pizza.
so why
is
get off the
best.
boat?
That's the
If it's
thing.
the best you've ever had, then you're just going for second rate.
That's the thing, because we go to Sardinia, we go to Florence, we eat at the restaurants that nobody eats at. And I go, yeah, well, you know
take
what?
the boat.
I'll take the boat.
Then
I'll
what do you
take
guys do on the boat? You just fucking play like shuffleboard and shit?
You eat,
Yeah.
you walk
It's a hotel
around.
on water.
It's a hotel on water, but it's docked in a place like Sardinia and where you can go swimming. You can take a boat, you go swimming in beautiful water.
Now, Bryan keeps going on talking about his cruise and the time he spent with his family, but during his explanation, you can see Brendan constantly making remarks, kind of hinting that all of the things Bryan did on his cruise could have been done in Texas. And I think the underlying message Brendan is trying to get across is, hey man, you've been wasting my money and time with your little vacation.
Now, I'm a little too old to... It's about being with my family,
Sure.
right?
You guys could do that anywhere, though. Do you have to go through all that? Like, couldn't you guys...
Wait, so
Couldn't you just go
mean
up the street?
You don't want to take a flight, you don't want to fly from Austin to JFK, then to Italy, and then...
Jump on
or
a
to
boat?
Barcelona. And it's a lot of travel, Brennan. I don't know if you know about
Just to be
jet
together?
lag
I don't
with
get
a
it.
3-year-old either. That
No,
can be
it's
challenging.
nightmare.
Yeah. And then your kid shits his pants or whatever it is.
That's what they do, baby.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then what's good is when it's 100 degrees. I'm not complaining, but I am complaining.
You are complaining.
I am complaining.
As you should.
Now, when you go to places like Florence or Rome in the summertime, please understand that you will be you will be in you ever been in a parade? You ever walk in a parade? That's how many tourists are in the streets.
That's what you get, though.
That's what you get. So you're doing that. People talk about the food in Italy. You got to remember that America's caught up with this. Like, you eat at a good restaurant in Austin, and it's not like, what? This food in Italy is amazing. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Had the pasta.
Yeah.
Good.
You can find that here.
Can.
I always say that.
Now, in the next part, Brendan continues with his remarks and his bitchy attitude towards Bryan. One thing I want to point out is that the chemistry between these two is obviously non-existent at this point. I think the only reason they're doing this podcast together is because of the money, and certainly not because they're still friends.
But at least your old man had fun, right?
He had fun.
Did he, though? It seems like a lot for him.
He's 85, so what he'll do is stay inside his cabin, read and do everything he does in Utah, but then have dinner with his whole family.
You can do that anywhere, Pops.
Probably.
You wasted everybody's time, bud.
But
it was a lot of money.
But the kids love it. My daughter's zipping around.
My kids don't know if they're in fucking Italy or fucking Chuck E. Cheese. They don't give a fuck.
Well, my 3-year-olds, but the teenagers.
Oh, gotcha.
They're all about it. And then, but we were just talking about this. You and I love Austin for 1,000 reasons. I'm doing shit.
Yeah.
There's nothing that compares to the hang at the mothership or going to Archetype Boxing and hanging out with all those guys afterwards. Like, that's just the shit that you do. Being with my kids when I wake up.
Traveling, man.
Right.
Too old to be traveling.
Well, I travel enough.
I know, with your job.
So, yeah.
That'll beat you up.
Speaking
Not that
of which,
age you like that.
July 5th, Brea Improv. Come see me.
Just one night was that? That's a Saturday.
One night, Saturday. Right after, it'll be
Brea's
Saturday.
Great, though.
Yeah, 2
Loved
shows.
him.
It'll be good.
Dude, you were gone playing grab ass on the cruise when I was literally doing everything making money. But
Now, I think one of the main reasons Brendan is as upset as he is because of the recent lawsuit where he's being sued for fraud. I won't go into the details of the lawsuit. If you're interested, Podcast Cringe posted a video about it, and I highly suggest you watch it. But my point is this: lawsuits and lawyers are very expensive, and I generally think that the financial lifeline for Brendan at this very moment is the money he's getting from all the podcasts he's a part of. Now, obviously, this is just an assumption, but I can't imagine he's making a lot of money from all the bullshit products he's selling. I don't think many people are buying Brendan Schaub merch or his methylene blue oral drops. And he's certainly not making any money from his comedy career. I think just last year, Brendan canceled all of his stand-up comedy shows. He said it was due to a family emergency, but I believe that was just a lame excuse. I think the real reason he canceled all of his shows was most likely because nobody bought tickets. So Bryan not being part of the podcast and taking time off is a real financial hit for Brendan, especially when you take the lawsuit into consideration. And I generally think that's the main reason he's so angry at Bryan, because at the end of the day, the reality is Brendan might be broke.